Yeshua said this in the book of Matthew, chapter number 23. The greatest among you shall be your servant. And whoever exalts himself shall be humbled, and whoever humbles himself shall be exalted. It goes along with his teachings on those that are first will be last, and those who are last will be first, about living means dying, that we yield our lives in order to find our lives, that we give in order to receive. It would seem that Yah likes to turn things around on us to where we go against the grain of what is commonly understood to be the ways of life. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10 Minute Torah. This is day number 4 of special thoughts about Sukkot. Yesterday I said something about maybe some of the more practical elements today. Here's something that's practical that is not involving items that you want to pack or ideas that you want to include in the scheme of observing Sukkot. Sukkot, as we said yesterday, is also about community. And it's more about community perhaps than anything else other than finding time to discover who your Messiah is and rejoicing with him. When Laura and I first started observing Sukkot, it was 2002, and I had just left the pastorate of the church that we had resigned from within the last 30 days at that time. We didn't know anything about Sukkot, only what we had read a little bit in studying some Torah. And so we were invited to go down a long drive, probably 7 or 8 hours drive. We were asked to provide music and to help run sound. So I knew what to do to accomplish those things, and we packed a trailer, pulled a trailer, and went down to our first Sukkot. My goal in getting there was to be a servant to the man and his wife who were organizing the event. I didn't know what we were supposed to do. I set up a sound system. I set up band equipment, and we sang, we worshiped, and whatever else the man asked for, I did my best to provide that. That particular year, there was some discrepancy about the calendar. Imagine that. And 30 days later, one of the teachers at the first Sukkot was putting together a second Sukkot in Georgia. That was a lot further than the one we had just been to. 30 days later, I'm packing more equipment and driving to Georgia. And we slept in a cabin, a very, very, should I say, very rustic cabin. And it was a hard place to go to sleep in. And at night, when you walked out, you had to be careful about alligators. Never been around alligators before. But we went there to be a servant and to help. And for the next several years running, we would drive 9 to 11 hours in one direction, hauling band equipment and providing music and providing teaching and just going and helping. What do you need? How can I help? I got to tell you, the greatest experiences that I can recall were those early years where our goal and desire was not to be acclaimed or patted on the back or to be acknowledged as anything special, just going and serving, having a servant's heart. Now, we didn't make money out of those ventures. We spent money. There was some kindness offered and some compensation for travel expense a bit. But we definitely didn't go and get a huge offering or something of that nature. One year we drove halfway across the United States, 1,300 miles one way. And again, the goal was to go and to be a servant. And that opportunity really didn't even present itself until the very last event of the very last day, at the very end of that day. And when our service was over, we were looking at maybe a dozen people standing around actually observing what we had to offer. We spent a lot of money, took a lot of time. There's a lot of effort, a lot of effort. Our service really wasn't even accepted. But you know, when it comes to the kingdom, these sacrifices of a servant's heart, Yeshua says they will cause you to be the greatest. Now, that's not the goal, is to be the greatest, but the goal is to be a servant. It was during the time of Sukkot, in my understanding. You're welcome to disagree with me, and that's fine. I won't argue with you over this. But it's my understanding that Yeshua was born during the festival of Sukkot. My understanding is that he would have been born on the first day of Sukkot, and then on the 8th day, the great day, he would have been circumcised at the Temple Mount. Now, that scenario just fits for me. We can debate later if we need to. But follow the idea of Yeshua came and was born into this world to be Messiah ben Joseph, the servant Messiah. The one that Isaiah says, he is my servant, as he prophesied. And this faithful servant is the one who gave himself in behalf of a wayward nation and to reclaim a lost people. So it would seem then that at Sukkot, it's the season of serving. Oftentimes we arrive to choose our best spot, to get our favorite spot if it's a familiar place, to see how great a campsite we can set up. And we're getting good at that. We're remembering now, next year I want to bring extra lights, or I want to bring flags, or I want to bring potted plants. I want to do something unique and special to dress the place up. And every year my wife sees something that someone else did and said, oh, that's a great idea. We need to do that. Well, we learn from one another. But again, it's not about the grandeur of our campsite. It's about the heart of the servant, the purity of our purpose. So let me encourage you that as we travel to Sukkot, wherever that will be, for those that are at home and you really can't go anywhere this year, if you are, as I know one family here is doing, you're setting up a tent in your backyard, whatever it is that you're doing to observe, find a way to somebody, whether they understand what you're doing for Sukkot or not, to be a servant, to give a hand, to find out what it is that they need and do everything that you can to provide that need. It's not the easiest of things. It's not always the most rewarding of things immediately. But there is coming a time when we will stand before him, seeking entrance into his kingdom. And perhaps he will remember those times that we gathered in his name, the expense and the effort of our travel, and the heart with which we gave it. And he will beckon us from the place that we are to a place that is higher. May you find Yeshua in all that you do to observe Sukkot. May he richly, richly reward you with his presence. We'll finalize these thoughts again tomorrow. Until then, shalom.